Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So today, on the full moon day, we used to go through the Uposatha and what are the importance of Uposatha, what are the important acts in Uposatha, which is the keeping of precepts, also about generosity and about meditation. So dana, shila, bhavana. So the bhavana part, which is there, the development of the mind, or commonly known as meditation. So there is an aspect of meditation which is the balancing of energy. So this sutta is giving, and half of that is about the balance of energy, and the other half is about the experience of the Arahant, of a fully awakened person who, while doing his practice, has the understanding and development of the mind. So the sutta is Anguttara Nikaya 6.55, Sona Sutta. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Rajagaha on Mount Vulture Peak. Now, on that occasion, the Venerable Sona was dwelling at Rajagaha in the cool grove. Then, while the Venerable Sona was alone in seclusion, the following course of thought arose in his mind. I am one of Blessed One's most energetic disciples. Yet my mind has not been liberated from the taints of non-clinging. Now there is wealth in my family, and it is possible for me to enjoy my wealth and do meritorious deeds. Let me then give up the training and return to the lower life so that I can enjoy my wealth and do meritorious deeds. So Sona was one of the most energetic practitioners of the Buddha. It is said that when everybody used to walk on the road, he used to walk on the side of the road so he could feel the pain of the pebbles and the pain of the thorns which are there in the side of the. When everybody used to sleep, he used to wake up and do the meditation, which is the walking meditation. The whole night he used to be awake. So he used to be said that when he was walking, he used to kind of have his feet would become bloodied because he used to walk so much. And they used to see the blood on the walking path. And then they went to the Buddha. This is a story about the Vinaya, which is the practice for the monks, where the rules of the monks are given. So when hearing his story, the Buddha had allowed the use of slippers also. So this is not part of this sutta, but this is the another sutta which is there. Then, having known with his own mind the course of thought in Venerable Sona's mind, just as a strong mind might extend his drawn in arm or draw in his extended arm, the Blessed One disappeared on Mount Venture Peak and appeared in the cool grove in the presence of the Venerable Sona. The Blessed One sat on the seat prepared for him. The Venerable Sona paid homage to the Blessed One and sat down to one side. So when Sona was practicing this way, he expected that he would be gaining the fruit of the meditation, which is the non-clinging, but he did not get it. So he was thinking, I will go back home, I have money, then I will do, oh sorry, this is electricity has gone over here. Once. So what he was thinking was that maybe if he goes back to his house and starts living as a lay person, then actually at least he can enjoy his lay life and do meritorious deeds. So he could do dana and shila, but he was thinking that bhavana was not possible, meditation was not possible. So when Buddha thought about that, he came and spoke to Sona. The Blessed One then said to him, Sona, when you were alone in seclusion, didn't the following course of thought arise in your mind? I am one of Blessed One's most energetic disciples. Yet my mind has not been liberated from the taints of non-clinging. Now there is wealth in my family, and it is possible for me to enjoy my wealth and do meritorious deeds. Let me then give up the training and return to the lower life so that I can enjoy my wealth and do meritorious deeds. Yes, Bhante. Tell me, Sona, in the past, when you lived at home, weren't you skilled at lute? So lute must be some instrument like veena, which are stringed instrument. So that is, he was kind of from a rich family. So rich family people have hobbies. And then his hobby was music. And that music hobby was about playing the lute, which was the veena. So he was a expert veena player. Yes, Bante. What do you think, Sona? When its strings are too tight, was your veena well tuned and easy to play? No, Bante. Its strings were too loose. Was your veena well tuned and easy to play? No, Bante. Sona, when its strings were neither too tight nor too loose, but adjusted to a balanced pitch. Was your lute well tuned and easy to play? So he said, yes, Bhante. So now he knew that, one second, can Gautam ji mute कर सकते हैं गौतम जी यहाँ से हो चलो okay. So then when the veena was played, the veena was played in a way that it can be very harsh sounding when the wires are tight, and very uh, dull sounding when the wires are very loose. So he knew that concept of balance. He knew the concept of how those things can be tuned. So he knew the concept of that there is a balance which is there, and that there is a balance which can be created. So he knew that the strings can be tightened, and the strings can be made loose, and the strings, there is a balance can be created. So he understood the language of music. He understood the language of balance. So that's the reason Buddha gave him the example where he understood the concepts in his own way. For somebody, there may be some other concept which is there. Say a bodybuilder is there, he may understand the concept of weights. If he takes too much weights, he will not be able to do the repetitions. When he's not able to do the repetitions, he's not able to develop the muscles, and he's creating injury. But if he takes too less weights, then he may do the repetitions, but the muscles may not develop. That may not be true technically, but I'm just giving an example. And then the third option is to take the appropriate amount of weights to do the repetitions and develop the muscles also. So in that way, you can use any of the examples, but Buddha used the example because he understood that concept. So to Sona, if energy is aroused too forcefully, this leads to restlessness. And if energy is too lax, that leads to laziness. Therefore, Sona, resolve on a balance of energy, achieve evenness of the spiritual faculties, and take up the object there. So now the Buddha is asking Sona to be balanced. So now what is happening? Now what the balance he is asking to do is that he should avoid restlessness. So when you are doing a lot of energy, then there is a restlessness which is happening. But if that energy is too less, then what would happen is there will be the energy which is there would lead to laziness. That means that it may lead to sloth and torpor. It may lead to sleeping. It may lead to non kind of efforts. The practice where we do not want to put in the efforts. So that is how the mind will go into laziness. Therefore, Sona resolve on a balance of energy. So the energy has to be in a balance. Achieve evenness of spiritual faculties. Now, the spiritual faculties are the seven spiritual faculties. The seven spiritual faculties are the Satta Bhojanga. So, Bhante Dhammagavesi also used to talk about the balance in this Satta Bhojanga, the balance in these faculties which are there, the seven faculties which are there. Because when you are doing meditation, you are doing mindfulness, then investigation of energies. That leads to the balance of energy, that is in energy. Then that leads to piti, which is the happiness or joy. And that leads to tranquility, which is the balance and the coolness of the body, which leads to samadhi, which is the equanimity or samadhi means the collectedness of mind. Then when the collectedness of mind or concentration is developed, then equanimity is developed. That is the seven factors or the seven factors of or the seven faculties of awakening. So now that the Buddha is saying that we have to have the evenness in the spiritual faculties and take up the object there. And then we have to concentrate on the object of meditation in a way which can balance our meditation. So yes, Bhante, the Venerable Sona replied. When the Blessed One had finished giving Venerable Sona his exhortation, just as a strong man might extend his drawn-in arm or drawn in the extended arm, he disappeared in the cool grove and reappeared in Mount Vulture Peak. Then, sometime later, the Venerable Sona resolved on a balance of energy, achieved evenness of spiritual faculties, took up the object there. Then, dwelling alone, withdrawn, heedful, ardent and resolute, in no long time, Venerable Sona realized for himself with direct knowledge in this very life that unsurpassed consummation of the spiritual life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the household life into the homelessness. And having entered upon it, he dwelled in it. He directly knew birth is destroyed, spiritual life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more coming back to any state of being. So it did not take long for Sona to attain awakening when he had the understanding of the balance and when he was not overdoing the things and not putting in too much effort. Then he understood and achieved that balance. And when he achieved that balance, what happened was that he was able to do the practice. So he was ardent, resolute, and he was heedful. And then he was able to attain the understanding of what is the end of the spiritual life, which is the full understanding, the full wisdom of how this whole function of the dependent origination or the mind works. Then when he knew that, then he knew that he had destroyed the birth and the spiritual life had been lived. What had to be done had been done. There was no more coming back. So that means that he was an Arahant. He had become a fully awakened person. And the Venerable Sona became one of the Arahants. Having attained Arahantship, then Venerable Sona thought, let me go to the Blessed One and declare final knowledge in his presence. So this is one of the things which we see in the suttas many times. When somebody had attained awakening, then he would go to the Buddha and confess or declare his attainment. Or what he can do is he can send a message across. Like Vachakota did that, he sent a message across to the Buddha because he was not able to travel, that I have attained awakening. Then he approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side and said, Bhante, when a bhikkhu is an Arahant, one whose stains are destroyed, who has lived the spiritual life, done what had to be done, laid down the burden, reached his own goal, utterly destroyed the fetters of existence. Fetters of existence are the things which are binding us to existence, which are the kind of chains which are binding us to the existence and keeping us involved in this whole process. So that is what the fetters are there, which was destroyed. become fully liberated through final knowledge. So the knowledge which is there is very important. What we gain from our understanding when we are doing the practice, what we understand from that practice is very much important. So that knowledge which is there is what takes us to the awakening. He is intent upon 6 things: on renunciation, on solitude, on non-affliction, on the destruction of craving, on the destruction of clinging, and on non-confusion. So the Sona is giving a new concept over here about the state of mind of an Arahant who is there. So now he is kind of giving a understanding of the Arahant and how the Arahant is functioning and what are the aspects. So he gives 6 aspects of it, and he explains in detail. It may be, Bhante, that some venerable ones over here thinks, could it be that this venerable one is intent upon renunciation on account of mere faith? So now the first thing is about renunciation. Renunciation is giving up our ownership. It can be in physical possession of us, but we give the ownership of it. So I'll give a very nice example I had when I was in Thailand. So there was a kuti which was named Ajahn Sumedho's kuti. So there was a very senior monk, Ajahn Chah's student. So we were there and he was giving us a talk and he said, see, this kuti is there, Ajahn Sumedho kuti. So somebody has made it for me over here. But if I have ownership of it, then I will worry about it. When I am not here, then I say, who is using this kuti? What is happening to it? Is it getting clean? But if I use it as one night, I am using it to stay over here in this one night. Then I may stay over here in this kuti, but I may not have any kind of, one second, I'll just close this thing. I may not have any worry about it or any kind of attachment to it. So I may be over here, but I may still be away from that attachment which I have created. So that is the kind of renunciation which is there. It's not about the physical giving up, but it is of the mental non-attachment which is created. So he says that now this mental non-attachment which is there, somebody may think that that has been created just by faith, just because of Shraddha or confidence. But it should not be seen in such a way. A student with taints destroyed, who has lived the spiritual life and done his task, does not see in himself anything further to be done or any need to increase what had been done. So he says that when there is a Arahant is there, he does not have to have any extra effort to have non-attachment. He has to have no extra effort he has to make for achieving this state of renunciation. He is intent upon renunciation because he is devoid of lust. So when that state of mind has been reached, there is no kind of lust in the mind, which is the craving for things. Because he is devoid of hatred. So there is no aversion also in the mind. So he does not hate anything. Because he is devoid of delusion through the destruction of delusion. So there is no delusion also in a mind which is an Arahant. So now that concept is of delusion is taking it personally. Say if there is a thought comes up, then we say that I have that thought and we take ownership of that thought and then we become attached to that thought and we become kind of involved in that thought because we take ownership of it. That is the delusion which we are creating, and because of the delusion we are getting caught up in all the things. It may be that some venerable here one here thinks, could it be that this venerable one is intent upon solitude because he is hankering for gain, honor and praise? So now that it can also be there that when the Arahant is there, he may be also thinking about solitude. So he is not involved. He is withdrawn. He is withdrawn from the thinking. He is withdrawn from conversation. He is withdrawn from the physical thing also. So he is withdrawn. And then that withdrawn which is there is not for some gain, honor or praise. But because the same things which are there, which is happening is that he has become an arahant. He has destroyed the kind of the lust, aversion, and delusion which has been there. So then he goes on to say that this is the distraction which is there. Then it may be seen, it may be that some venerable one here thinks, could it be that this venerable one is intent upon non-affliction because he has fallen back on the wrong grasp of behavior and observances as the essence. So this is called Silabhata Paramasa. So is he kind of being harmless? Non-affliction is being harmless, not harming anything, because he's doing it as a practice of observances or Silabhata Paramasa, which is like a custom or ritual he is doing it. Because there was another parallel teacher when Buddha was there, which emphasized on the non-harm. But non-harm was in a very extreme manner, they used to say. They used to not even breathe because they used to keep a cloth because they thought that germs would die. So that's the reason they were doing the non-harm from a practice of ritual, not understanding that this is a mental faculty. Non-harm is a mental faculty. That is, you don't create any mind which is there, which creates a harm. So somebody may think that it may be done because it is doing as a Silapata Paramasa or rituals or as a custom. But he says then that is also not the case, because when you are a bhikkhu, that taints are destroyed. Taints are the attachment which you have. Who has lived the spiritual life and done his task, does not see himself anything further to be done or any need to increase what had been done. So he is intent upon non-affliction because he is devoid of lust through the destruction of lust, because he is devoid of hatred, the destruction of hatred, because he is devoid of delusion through the destruction of delusion. So in the same way, when he is instruction on the, he is intent on the destruction of craving, because he is devoid of lust through the destruction of lust. Then he is intent on the destruction of clinging, because he is devoid of lust through the destruction of lust. He is intent on non-confusion. So now non-confusion means that there are no doubts in the mind. So one of the 5 hindrances which a person has is doubt. So when he's practicing, the doubt may come that am I doing it correctly? Am I practicing this in a right manner? But when you have attained a certain amount of understanding, then you gain that non-confusion, because you don't have any lust, you don't have any hatred, you don't have any delusion. Through the destruction of those 3, you are getting kind of released from that cycle. Bhante, when a student is thus perfectly liberated in mind, even if powerful forms cognizable by the eye come into range of the eye, they do not obsess his mind. His mind is not at all affected. It remains steady, attained to imperturbability, and he observes its vanishing. So now what he is saying is, how is the functioning mind of the Arahant? It is giving a kind of a insight into how the Arahant's mind is functioning currently. So now when he says that wherever there is something which is seen, that is not obsessed by the mind. So mind does not want to hold on to the scene. It may be very beautiful, a flower may be there may be a beautiful fountain is there, but that mind is not going and catching hold of that and not getting and creating stories. If you see a flower and you can create a story, how beautiful it will look outside my kuti or outside my house, and how it will kind of, I can present it to somebody. All these things we create from our obsession with the flower or the what we have seen. His mind is not afflicted. So he is not afflicted image which he has seen. It remains steady, attains to imperturbability. That is also being very steady. He observes its vanishing. So when he sees something arise, so he sees the thought which is there, which is the contact arise of the visual thing, and after seeing its arise, he can see it kind of vanish away. So he sees it arising and then he sees it's vanishing away. And he is not involved. He is just an observer in this case. Even if powerful sounds cognizable by the ear come into range of the ear, even if powerful odors cognizable by the nose come into the range of the nose, even if powerful tastes cognizable by tongue come into the range of the tongue, even if powerful tactile objects cognizable body come into the range of the body, even if phenomena cognized by the mind, which is can be thoughts, feelings, ideas, come into the range of the mind. They do not obsess his mind. His mind is not afflicted. It remains steady, attained to imperturbability, and he observes its vanishing. So even if a thought comes, he can see the thought as thought, see it coming and see it's going away, and he can be uninvolved with that thought. And the thoughts are not linked to any craving. It is not linked to any hatred. It is not linked to any kind of delusion. The thoughts may be practical. Say, I am hungry. Where can I go for my next arms round? So that can be a practical thought which is there. So there is no greed involved over here. There's no hatred involved. There's no delusion involved, which was practically which is needed. Then you may say, who are the students who may require my teaching? And I'll have to go to that students. So there also you see that there is no kind of greed which is there, hatred or delusion which is involved. So the person will operate in a very neutral manner, because that person has no attachment which is happening at that time. Suppose one day there were a strong mountain. So he's giving a example, a simile to give a visual example. Without cliffs or fixtures, one solid mass. If a violent rainstorm should come from the east or the west or the north or the south, it could not make it quake, wobble, and tremble. So now what he is saying is that if there is a solid rock and the rainstorm comes from anywhere, the rock will not tremble, it will not shake, it will not do anything, because it has no effect. The rain has no effect to that big mountain or the rock which is there, stone mountain which is there. So it will have no effect on that. So too, when a student is thus perfectly liberated in mind, even if powerful forms cognizable by the eye come into range of the eye, even if powerful phenomena cognizable by the mind come into the range of the mind, they do not obsess his mind. His mind is not at all affected. It remains steady, attained to imperturbability, and he observes its vanishing. If one is intent on renunciation and solitude of mind, if one is intent on non-affliction and destruction of craving, if one is intent on cravings, destructions, and non-confusion of mind, when one sees the sense basis arising, one's mind is completely liberated. So he shows that how he has attained to the liberation and what was his path of liberation. So what he is saying is that first he had the renunciation of the mind and solitude of the mind. So he renounced everything. So he was not taking ownership of everything which was coming. Then he was going to the second stage, which was solitude. So he was withdrawing from others, which is like withdrawing from the thoughts, withdrawing from the whatever speech which is there, withdrawing from physically from others. So now that is the withdrawing which is happening. Now withdrawing, that's the reason the retreats are very helpful, because in the retreat what we say is have noble silence. Just see what you want to, wherever you want to walk, just look at that. Don't look here and there. And then be alone in your meditation. Don't intermix and kind of mix with others. You can sit with others, but you can still be in solitude while sitting with others, because you're not mixing with them. Then there is non-affliction. So you have the not to hurt anybody, not to have any ill will or thoughts. That's the reason Metta meditation, Brahmavihara meditation helps a lot, because it is a start where there is no affliction. There is Metta is there, Karuna is there, compassion is there, and therein there is a joy, sympathetic joy. So that is something which develops in the mind. If one is intent on the cravings destruction and non-confusion of mind. So now there is letting go of clinging, there is a letting go of craving, and there is non-confusion. So now when you know everything, then there is no confusion. So when you are develop your understanding, then there is no confusion. When one sees the sense basis arising, one's mind is completely liberated. So once when sees whatever is happening in his senses, then one is not attached to the reality. When he sees the reality, then not attached to any of the senses. For a bhikkhu of peaceful mind, one completely liberated. So then a person becomes peaceful of mind and is completely liberated. There is nothing further to be done. No need to increase what had been done. As a stone mountain, one solid mass is not stirred by wind, so no forms, tastes, sounds, odors, tactile objects, and phenomenal, desired or undesired, stir the stable one's mind. His mind is steady and free, and he observes its vanishing. So it sees them arising and he sees them vanishing. So that is how that thing works. So one more thing is, if anybody wants, I can also, what I'll do is I'll add if this sutta as a document and send it. So anybody wants to read that sutta, I should have shared in the initially, but anyways, I'm sharing it now. So you can use that as a reference. So if anybody has any questions, they can ask the questions. And if questions regarding the suttas, you can ask them. If it is regarding meditation or anything else also, you can ask. There are no questions? I see Shubham has put in a donation link. So I would just like to talk about donation. So our trust which are there. There is a SVT trust and there's a new trust which we have found, Metta Insight Foundations, is having a full-time employee, and we also have support of retreats, and we are supporting some of our teachers for travel and all those costs for conducting retreat, like paying for the food, paying for the venue also, so that people can gain the teaching and have in touch with the teaching. So I would request that anybody who is able and capable can donate. The links have been given in the chat. So if you are able to donate, then please donate. And if anybody has questions, then please feel free to ask the questions. Nobody has questions? Okay, then I'll share the merits and we can end the. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensations. Okay, thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you so